courtesy web security. Very broad and general question, but this is what the talk is all off season. I, on our channel, grind it down to all sorts of X's and O's and personal matchups, but when it comes down to it, people love to hear about projections and predictions. If you look at this Florida schedule, it's very manageable from a non-conference standpoint because they usually load up on some pretty difficult non-conference games, right, in addition to the Florida State game that they always have to play that used to always be a top 10 to 15 kind of team that they had to face every year, but not so much this year. So the non-conference is light, but those two non-division games add a lot of weight with LSU, of course, every year, Alabama in week 3. Just your thoughts about Emory Jones, this Florida offense, the defense. It looks very much like a good, solid team that's going to produce all sorts of NFL players, but not necessarily elite level talent across the board that should be able to challenge Georgia, at least in my estimation.
The early projections that you're seeing would be Florida around, I've seen as low as 17, frankly, from some of the way too early projections that we've seen. I'll be interested to see when Lindy's and Athlon come out where they've got them, but pretty much everybody's projecting Georgia to win. Gosh, Mark, I saw someone predict the other day the Gators being 4th in that division. I can't imagine that they've got way too much talent for that to happen. But again, is it going to be Anthony Richardson, Emory Jones? We think is going to be the quarterback. How accurate is he going to be? We think the offensive line will be a pretty solid offensive line. I think the strength of the offense is going to be the running backs. I mean, they've got guys like Lorenzo Lingard, who came over from Miami, who really hadn't even hit his stride yet. And they've got a really deep room. And I think the receivers are going to be pretty much okay. Also, the shorter kid from Penn State, among some of those, Copeland, and some of that group going to be pretty good. Look, how you replace Kyle Pitts, you just don't. He was such a unicorn in a lot of ways. Now, I think the defense will be good. Now, I know people, and the more you can believe they are here, they're not happy that Todd Grantham is back at DC, but at the same time, Grantham, I think he's got a good club. I mean, what they've done in the transfer portal is probably to fix that defensive line as much as they have anything else. I think that's important. They had to make some real changes in the secondary, so they brought in some different coaches there. Marco Wilson, the kid who threw the shoe, I mean, obviously he's gone. But Mark, there's something else here that needs to be addressed with them. They've got the talent. And the thing I've always said about Dan Mullen is we know what the basement is. The basement is, at the very worst, 8-4, 9-3, something like that. But what we don't know is how high is the ceiling, and can he get in to a national championship game? And again, to their credit, last year, Mark, I'm convinced if they beat LSU and they would have beat Alabama in the SEC championship game, I mean, they would have been they'd have been in the college football playoffs. So humongous game at the Swamp, middle of September when Bama comes in. We'll know what they've got at that point. The Georgia game here is always a difficult game. And I'm telling you that I think they've got better players, but that Florida State game is not going to be as easy as it has been, particularly if Mackenzie Milton ends up being the quarterback there. Jordan Travis is among that bunch. And I think they will be better. So that's a really good question around here is what are they going to be doing? And see, the other thing, I know you've touched on this, with Dan Mullen himself. You know, some people thought that Darth Vader outfit on Halloween was cute. Some others thought that it was insane. I think they were very concerned about the Missouri game at halftime, where he kind of gets runs to the officials, and they almost have a melee in midfield. And Mullen comes out and gets the fans fired up. And even Mullen himself admitted that He needs to watch his behavior. But look, here's the number one thing for Florida, and I know you've talked about this, but it bears repeating. Mark, they've done well with the transfer portal. Where they need to do better is National Signing Day, because this is a staff that, frankly, has not recruited the way they need to recruit. That they're okay, but Mark, if you're 7 and 8 in the national recruiting rankings in the SEC, you've got what, 5 teams above you or something like that. So I think what's going to be important for them is that they've really got to take a look at their recruiting and where they go with that. And I mean, Florida fans will tell you that they believe this is a staff that struggles in recruiting. And to me, the bottom line is for them to go to the next level, that's an area of the program that's got to really improve.
So we're looking at the last 2 classes at number 12 and number 9 in the nation in 20 and 21, and number 9 in the nation in 19. So that's what's currently on the roster.
Yes.
The bulk of the roster are, those are fine recruiting classes. We're not going to disparage that. There are going to be all sorts of pro players on those rosters. But
absolutely,
over time, there is a difference between recruiting in the top 3 and recruiting 10, 11, 12.
No question. Absolutely. And that's the thing we're seeing right now is Bama, LSU, A&M, Georgia consistently, Mark, or above Florida. Now, look, when we say they're above Florida, what does that mean? Are they, 2 players above them? Are they 3? Are they 4? That's debatable. But to your point, Mark, in this league, as you know, if you're in the bottom of the top 10, and look, there are a lot of fans watching us right now that said, I'd give anything for my club to have a top 10 class once in my lifetime. But that's just the way things are in the SEC, right, Mark? If you're at the bottom of the league, at some point that catches up with you.
Will Muschamp routinely brought in classes between 15 and 20 in South Carolina and found himself in 8th, 9th, 10th place in the recruiting rankings.
That's right. Absolutely. So, and people don't like us to talk about that at times, but that's the way it is. And you've got to secure the talent. And if you struggle in doing that, at some point you're going to see it in your record, are you not?
Absolutely, you will. And in some of those key matchups that we talked about, as you looked at Alabama, LSU, and Georgia, I'm not going to consider those in any way automatic losses, but I do think that Florida is going to be a reasonable, decided underdog in those games as things stand right now. A lot's going to happen between now and October, November. But if they only drop one other game, then they're sitting at a pretty mediocre 8-4.
Yeah. But see, Mark, and I know we need to get going here, but the other reality of that, and this is what we talked about before, for a team like Florida, the difficult thing is not just the teams that you talked about, but it's the Missouri. If you go to Columbia and they've got a hot day and you don't, you can lose that game. So it's one of those things to where if Florida or any team, if you win those 50-50 games like that and are able to split the top games, as you mentioned a few minutes ago, at that point, you're in contention for a lot of things.